It's Energumen opening up a clear advantage in the closing stages. A breath of fresh air over fences is going to stay at the helm of the 2 mile novices. Energumen by a romping 10-12 lengths.
And welcome back to episode number 2 of the Road to Cheltenham Challenge with myself and Ronan Groome, who couldn't make it to Fairy House. He was too old. Sunday, Ronan, what a reaction we got for the first episode of the new season. The punters do the Cheltenham chat, and we're going to give it to them for 17 weeks.
Yeah, 17 weeks of Cheltenham chat. Can't start early enough, huh?
Absolutely. So, yeah, we're going to start rolling as we do. I suppose I just want to thank everyone for getting involved. The template below, we can see, I suppose, people who are watching the show for the first time, have a look in the description under the video, and we put the template in there. So go on and knock yourself out, put in your week 1 selection and week 2 for this year. The format is as follows for anyone who didn't tune in last week. Every single Monday between now and the Cheltenham Festival, we are going to be sticking to the format as follows. The big race review, where we'll look back at the big race of the weekend, the selected performance of the week from both myself and Ronan. Then we're going to look at the over and under section, where we'll be taking a performance that we felt, I suppose, was overrated, and one that was underrated. We'll be doing that each week. If we have to call someone into the Stewards Room, it didn't happen last week, but we will be doing so. And the tracker horse. We'll be both putting a horse into the tracker, whether that's come from a novice race, whether it's one maybe staying on late in a handicap, one that caught our eye over the weekend. We'll be giving our Ante-Post Selection for the week. And we'll have one of those each week for the 17 weeks of the show. The long range effort, by the way, and we're going to give ourselves 4 of those. They're worth a half a point in the staking system or the format that we're using, and 2 wild cards. I put in my team captain last week, and I suppose to kind of give you the breakdown, it's a 1 point for our regular selection, 2 points for a wild card, 3 points for our team captain. In my case, it was an Energumen last week at 5-1. And a long range effort, we're going to have 4 of them each, and that's worth a half a point. So the rule with that one, of course, is it has to be 25-1 or over. So lots of fun to be had. We'll also be reflecting back on our selections as well as the show kind of goes on throughout the season. So Ronan Groome, the big race of the weekend. Talk to me. The Hatton's Grace, the Hennessy. Go on, you start with the Hennessy. What was your thoughts on the Hennessy at Newbury? What was the horse to kind of take out of that? We impressed with the winner.
I mean, the horse to take out of it, I suppose the only horse really is Fiddler on the Roof. If you're looking at it with regards to Cheltenham anyway, in the graded races, I tipped them up on our Thursday show. I watched them all the way up the straight. It was one of those ones where I thought he was going to get there. I knew he'd devour the trip, and I knew he'd stay on, and the Cloudy Glen just kept going. Look, was it the performance of a grade 1 or potential grade 1 horse, Fiddler on the Roof? Probably touch and go, but they finished 28 lengths clear of Rama Bull and on the ropes. On the ropes as well, touted beforehand. Brahman Bull is a decent enough yardstick. They've come miles clear. Cloudy Glen, you can kind of see where it came from. It ran quite well at Cheltenham last season. First time out, Venetia in good form. Soft, the wind up and everything. Probably, maybe it was just well handicapped on the day, and that's it. But I still think Fiddler on the Roof could have a say in a grade 1 this season. Interesting to see what he goes up now, because he's finished miles clear. Obviously, the second and third off 150. He's got to be close to something like 160 now when the ratings come out tomorrow, I think. And he's 41 for the Gold Cup, Barry. Would that be that wouldn't tempt you at all. The stamina sort of test there. I just thought that was a bit big. Now because I hate when people say this. You take out the horse that beat him, that he was conceding £10, that he'd be a 28 length winner of the Hennessy or the Ladbrokes Trophy, and we'd be having a completely different conversation. But I don't know. What did you think? I thought he could. The tests of a 3 mile 2 around Cheltenham. It's not always the best horse wins that race. 40-1 each way, so it's something to run on late in the day.
I want to talk about, I suppose, this side of the water. It was at Ferryhouse yesterday. One of those racing. It was they've tried everything now to get this mare beat, haven't they? I thought of all the races that she's ran, I suppose at Ferryhouse, I thought going into this one she might have been a little bit more vulnerable. Stormy Island was obviously going to go out and do what Stormy Ireland does. And I just thought on good ground, really good ground, that we haven't really seen Honeysuckle win on proper good rattling fast ground like it was at Ferryhouse on Sunday. So I thought if ever there was a day that she was maybe slightly vulnerable first time up at Ferryhouse, it was on Sunday. And Ronald Pump, what an honourable run from him. Looked Honeysuckle in the eye, turning for home, and the trip was probably plenty sharp for him. He does enjoy the good ground. But in terms of the Hatton's Grace, it was probably up there with one of the best performances I've ever seen on a racecourse live. She was absolutely phenomenal. And that's all I can say. And what a reaction. The racehorse being adored as she came back in. But there's not really much left to say about Honeysuckle. She turns up in that sort of form. It's hard to see. We're doing this Ante-Post show. For me, you couldn't be putting up anything against her at this stage.
Yeah, she's very good now. It was a weird kind of race, I think, in many ways. I was listening to Gordon Elliott talk today. I was on a webinar call for him. He was doing his Christmas runners, and someone asked him about Abacadabras, and he's just saying it was a strange kind of race and nothing got into it. Now that's obviously probably down to Stormy Island going a breakneck speed from thing, but nothing really from behind got into the race. Now granted, there are a couple of horses there having their first run of the season. Maybe it was just all too much, but she's just too good at the minute. Honeysuckle, she's miles ahead. What you're looking at now, even money for the champion, like you're really just betting that she gets there. She's a 2 to 5 shot probably on the day, probably arguably even shorter if she scares away opposition. And it's just the division, isn't it? Really, it's everybody wants to chase her now. It's and Willie had a couple of options this season. I think that's kind of symbolic of the way things have kind of moved. Like he could have put Appreciated back over hurdles, Fernie Hollow, all those good novice hurdlers that he had last season. They're all going chasing. It just seems to be the point-to-point market. And even like you say that Honeysuckle was a point-to-pointer. Faheen was a point-to-pointer bought to go chasing. They just happened to be good over hurdles. And too good to go over chasing. Well, Faheen obviously went quite late in his career, but that seems to be the way to go. I think the market for flat horses has been gone international now, and that's kind of, it's just leading to a dearth of kind of talent in the division. And I think in a few years to come, the Mayor's Novice Hurdle at Cheltenham will end up being probably the best trial for the Champion Hurdle or the Champion Hurdle contender the next season, if you know what I mean. Because Mayors are probably more likely to stay over hurdles. And yeah, just going off topic a bit here, but I thought it was worth mentioning. And Honeysuckle, I just can't see her getting beaten this year. She'll go to February now to Dublin Racing Festival for the Irish Champion, and then on to Cheltenham. I think it's set in stone that. And yeah, if she turns up in the form she's like that, she's a trees on shot, I think, on the day. So
next segment of the show is the selected performance of the weekend. And I'm going to jump in here, right? It was a 4-runner race at Newbury, but I just love this fella. Ahoy Senor by Dylan Thomas. Reminded me a bit of Coneygree. I was just something, I'm not sure if he was as good a jumper over his fences as Coneygree, but when he went along, holy Christ, the scope that this horse has. He is an absolute brute. It was only his 5th run over fences. Now, look, people will probably question. Sorry, the 5th run ever, exactly. And he's achieved a mark of 152 already. He jumped a little bit right-handed. If you were to maybe be crabby, he jumped right-handed once. The big lugs on this fella. You should see the size of his ears. He is an absolute. This fella's a brew. I loved him. Absolutely loved him. He says pretty unfurnished. Now, I was kind of thinking when I saw him jumping right, would he be a Cheltenham horse? Obviously, he didn't run at the festival last year. It was impressive at Aintree when he bet Brakeman's game and put him in his place. It has to be said. Should suit him. That will be, I think, the target. Lucinda Russell said after the race. And what a duel that'll be. We were speaking about Braveman's game last week, but this fella, he just took the eye out of my head now. He couldn't have done it any more impressive. Where Henry's a little bit disappointing at the weekend, Mr. Incredible. Look, he came into the race well touted. But you'd imagine Cato Star, Reynoldstown. And when she was asked the question after the race, Lucinda, in fairness, said he's a horse that we'll be looking at Cheltenham with. So, but he was absolutely class. I felt and absolutely loved him, and he's unfurnished. He's going to improve. Another mention as well, just for Danny Mullins on a performance of the week. His ride on Statuaire in the Royal Bond. It's not. Fairyhouse usually a track that kind of favours the ones at the front, and it was quite slow. It was a slow run race. There's lots of horses pulling very hard early for a first circuit. But I thought Danny Mullins was his timing on the ride, and the way he rode the finish on Statuaire, I thought is worth mentioning. Ronan, what was your performance of the week?
Yeah, I'm not sure about absolute performance, pure class, I guess, because obviously you have Honeysuckle and that was the best performance, but the selected performance, I guess, is what we're talking about. And I just liked, for different reasons, I liked Beacon Edge's winning the Drimmore. I guess, look, you're saying a High Seigneur is, yeah, and there's different way horses can be impressive. A High Seigneur won by half the track. And just absolutely obliterated his field. But there's lots to like about Beacon Edge's winning the Drimmore. Like, he was off his head on the back straight. Looked like he was probably could have been pulled up really closer to winning, and on quicker ground than he probably wouldn't have ideal. Thought Dennis O'Regan gave him a brilliant ride. Just kept a hold of him enough that he could stay in contention. He's going as fast as he could, and clear then that in the straight he just devoured the ground. Big jump at the last, loved that, and got him into contention, and he was winning going away at the line. I think it goes without saying 2.5 miles on quick ground is an absolute minimum for him, or minimum kind of sort of trip for him, and he got away with it. So he was winning kind of in spite of the ground, in spite of the distance, on just a second chase start. And he also turned the form around with Lifetime Ambition to the tune of about 12 lengths. So that just lots of good signs there that he's going in the right direction. And soft ground up to 3 miles. I believe his target now is the Grade 1 at Christmas, the Neville Hotels race. Now Leopardstown can often end up quite quick as well, but you'd hope that it'd be a bit softer than it was at Fairyhouse yesterday. Yeah, I'd think he's worth following from here. That was just a second chase start. Lots of scope to improve. He was a classy hurdler. He was rated 158. He's got form around Cheltenham, which is important as well. He was fourth to Flooring Porter, ran a big race in Stayers last season. So long term as a Brown advisory hope, I think Noel Mead has got a live hope there. So Beacon Edge was my selected performance of the week. Yeah,
you and your Noel Mead horn.
You can't say that.
Can't say that, but it's said. To be fair now, and I'm going to say this about Beacon Edge. Like, put a High Seigneur going right-handed in that race based on look, it's hard to compare, but that going down the back, to be fair, it was and you could see it up the straight in Fairyhouse. You could just see him staying on. I don't know. I'm not sure the strength of that Drimmore, if I'm being honest. I don't think he's a typical horse coming from hurdles. He's rated 159, I think, over hurdles. I don't see him improving your typical sort of 10 pounds, going novice chasing, or a horse that you'd say, was always going to make it into a better chaser. He doesn't strike me as that sort of horse, but I could be wrong. Over and under section. Go ahead. Go for it.
So what, go first? Overrated?
Yeah, go with the overrated first.
Okay.
Don't say
okay.
hi, senor.
Not like last week. I thought John Bon was the most overrated for me of the week. And look, a horse like John Bon is never going to be underrated. Let's face it. He's obviously the relation to Duvan. He's cost 570 grand. So he's with Nicky Henderson. He's owned by JP. This horse will never, ever, ever be an underrated horse. But for him to be 3-1 shot after winning what was an absolute farce of a race at Newbury, it took them about 10 minutes to even get started. They were running around. No one wanted to make the run into the start. Look, he did it nicely, but God Almighty! I was listening to I can't remember where I read it anyway, but when you take into account that a lot of the Willie Mullins' horses haven't even ran yet, the good ones, the likes of Kilcrush and Sir Gerhard, all these horses to come out, and you've been asked to take 3-1 about John Bon for the Supreme. It's just absolute. Doesn't make any sense to me at all. So it was quite an easy overrated one for me today. Look to see how he gets on, but it's not like Nicky's going to campaign him real strongly now. I think he'll probably go to Kempton for that race, since it seems as they probably end up going straight to Cheltenham then, the way Nicky seems to be campaigning his horses at the moment. So you're not actually going to get him tested at all before Cheltenham. So what price? 3-1 just seemed bogus to me. My underrated horse was Statuaire. You're talking about Danny Mullins in giving that horse a good ride. I don't think she's got any credit for her performance at all, to be honest. All the talk in that race after the race was about Mighty Potter. You swear Mighty Potter won by 5 lengths. Statuaire has come from a probably unpromising position in the straight off a slow pace and powered through late on. She's not going to be rated well because most of the Willies haven't even woken up yet, and she's a Downpatrick winner, or I think she won Downpatrick and Wexford maybe during the summer. So she's just not the type to be rated well at all. But she's won from an unpromising position in a Royal Bond and real powerful at the line. I think she could develop into a real big contender for the Mayor's Novice Hurdle. You take just, it's interesting that a couple of them ran this weekend, but LA Bell won over at Newbury and Grangy won on Saturday at Fairyhouse. Look what they did. They won kind of. LA Bell beat 4 runners. Nina the Terrier came down at the last. Grangy beat absolutely nothing. And Statuaire is kind of nearly a bigger price than both of them for winning a Grade 1 against Geldings. And the other thing I liked about him, Barry, is the comments from Willie after the race. He said she's strengthened up really well and she's going to go for the Grade 1 again at Christmas against the Geldings again. It's just all seems really promising that she'll end up like a real big contender for the Mayor's Novice. So definitely my underrated was Statuaire.
My overrated performance of the week, Phil Dore. 7-2 for the Triumph Hurdle in November. He didn't exactly.
And how do you compare that then to 3-1 about John Bon? That's a good comparison.
I just think he didn't exactly have the hair standing on the back of my head or anything. Phil Dore. He was sketchy at 1 or 2. I think I read a comment from Davy Russell and Gordon after the race saying Davy said he was asleep half the way around. So maybe he will improve. I just think he's very short. Pull miles clear of the front, but the two in front, so they could be 2 very good horses. But for me, his jumping was sketchy. I mean, O'Connor was 5-1 after winning at Leopardstown in the Dublin Racing Festival, or what's now the Dublin Racing Festival. This fella's 7-2 after winning around Fairyhouse in November. I don't know. I just think it's very short, especially when the old saying, juveniles never hold their form. They're young horses. I just think he's incredibly short. You probably get 7-2 on the day or bigger. But anyway, that was a bit overrated for me, I felt. Underrated, Ronan, LA Bell. I thought she was very good. The race, what did she beat? I agree with you, Grangy. Grangy bet absolutely 0. And did it well, by the way, at Fairyhouse. But I felt LA Bell, Skelton said it as well, that she came on a lot for her first run. He was quite surprised because she was quite keen in her races last year, and she's after taking her run this year. It was a real strong pace right from start to finish. She travelled beautifully, jumped very well, and thought there was a lot to like. I mean, look at her bumper form from last year, you know. And if you were to ask me, would it take 8-1 on LA Bell for a Mayor's Novice Hurdle or Phil Dore at 7-2? I know which I'd be taking in terms of favourites at this stage for the Cheltenham Festival. Third in the champion bumper. She goes well and good. Yeah, I thought she'd be cut shorter than 8-1 myself, and I think she'd probably improve again, based on Skelton's comments from the. If she was trained by Willie Mullins, would she be 8-1?
That's fair enough, I guess. Yeah, I'm
Done
not
it
sure.
nicely,
Well, Willie Mullins trained Statuaire, and she's 8-1 after winning a Grade 1. So
yeah,
it's a good comparison, really, isn't it?
I
I take your point on her having, and Grangie for that matter, actually having Cheltenham Festival form. They both ran quite well in the bumper last season, so that is on their CV compared to Statuaire, who doesn't have that. But on pure form terms, I would have taken Statuaire.
Yeah, but she's floating. She's floating around the. She was at 8-1 now. Both herself and a high senior were flirting with me as regards this competition. But we're a bit far out to be taking 8-1 shots. Maybe. An urge means the exception. Next part of the show, Ronan Groome. Are you bringing anyone into the Stewards Room? I'm bringing in the bookie who made Phil Dore 7-2. That's who I'm bringing in. That's who I'm bringing into the Stewards Room. Anything really? I don't think you had anything worth mentioning this week for the Stewards Room, had you?
No. We will be using this title during the season, but there wasn't really that much happening now, to be honest, that you could get annoyed about this weekend.
It's funny, actually. Nicky Henderson got a lot of stick, and I watched back his interview and kind of changed my opinion completely after watching it. I don't know whether he had me sold. He was the Racing Post show. I watched it. He was in the car. I think the wife was in the back. But he had me sold by the end of the interview. Look, Tracker Horse, Ronan Groome.
Yeah,
shall I
just a quick.
Take it away?
You take it away then.
I'll take it away. Yeah, I've mentioned it a couple of times. Midnight Run. I put up on the Thursday show as one I felt would run a good race. Ran a decent race behind Gabby Nacco on his first start of the season. 140 rated hurdler. I always liked this lad. I always had a bit of a soft spot for Midnight Run. He had a shocking season. He had a shocking second half to the season 2 years ago. He had an average season last year, but I've always felt that this fella is classy. And I thought he ran a cracker. I felt under Rachel Blackmore before falling 3 out. He was dropped in. Dropped in the race. He was kind of creeping. I thought he jumped well. He handled a nice ground. Conditions were probably ideal for him. He was having a second start, but he's still a maiden over fences. I think it won't be long now before this lad gets off the mark over fences, and I'd be interested in him now. Come the spring handicaps. It'd be interesting to see. I reckon he probably will get off the mark over fences, and I'd be interested in him maybe for something like a Punchestown Festival now in the springtime on good ground, Midnight Run. Maybe he could be one for one at Cheltenham, but I thought there was a lot to like about the way he was running. Dropped in, as I said, jumped nicely, travel well, and I think he's going to be better than a 140 horse over fences. That's Midnight Run. What about you?
Yeah, a bit lower profile for me. I just like the run of the Mayor Sit Down Lucy in the handicap hurdle at Berryhouse, the good grade A or the grade B handicap hurdle, I think it is. She made the run in most of it, but she was jumping out to her left on the second circuit and still kind of kept on nicely in a competitive handicap hurdle. She's had 3 runs this season, just run really well each time. She's second to that good mare, Colin Murphy's Impervious. Don't give up on her either after her run in the Royal Bond. Probably wasn't suited by the slow pace. And Sit Down Lucy finished second then to a horse called Top Bandit at Punchestown. Handy enough in a novices race there. And stepped forward again here with her run in the handicap hurdles. So, yeah, I think she could be one for that good, that good Mayor's Handicap Hurdle at Dublin Racing Festival. I think it's the first race on the Sunday. Could be one if they kept her for that. Peter Fahey does well with a good mare. Obviously had Royal Cahala last season, and could be interesting if they kept her for that. Or there's good mares options then at Fairyhouse as well. So watch out for Sit Down Lucy. I think she could be worth following this season.
It's that time of the show, Ronan Groome. You're up. I think I went first last week, so we'll give you the honours that are in the Mike Vince innings on this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna use my team captain this week, Basil. It's I think this horse is the best horse in training, and he runs this Sunday in the John Durkan. So if you haven't worked it out already, it's Allaho.
Is an urge me not going to the Hilly, no?
Yeah, the feeling you were going to say that. Yeah, look, I just think this thing's an absolute train. That's the way he ran in the Ryanair last season. Look, he's 7-2, but I'm going to use my my captain's pick, or what is it? Yeah, my captain's. He's going to be my team captain, so I get to treble that stake. And I thought for that sort of when you're using your team captain, you wanna have a rock solid one, and I think that's Allaho. I think he definitely will end up in the Ryanair. There's been talk of Envoy Allen might end up there, but Willie will surely get his way. The tried and tested route. We know how Willie likes to operate, and he'll surely have his way. And how are they going to find something that was more impressive than Allaho was in the Ryanair last season? He was absolutely electric. Nothing could go with him.
The horse of Jerry Hannon. Allaho.
Yeah, strap yourselves in, because Allaho from the front in the Ryanair will be an absolute sight to be seen. I just think he was excellent. They messed around with the trip last season. They didn't really know what to do. I think they're trying to make a Gold Cup horse out of him. And then even towards the end of the season, they're trying to make a 2-miler out of him, but just leave him at 2.5 miles. I don't even think he has to win this Sunday. Like, it was his first run of the season, and it's going to be a good race to John Durkan. But by the time Cheltenham rolls around, I could see him being much shorter than 7-2. It's not an exciting price or anything, but look, it is what it is. 7-2 for my team captain, Allaho, for the Ryanair. And my standard selection this week, the Mayor I mentioned already, I'm going to add in Statuaire for the Mayor's Novices Hurdle. Just think 8-1 could look big. Willie's already mentioned the race for her. Obviously, Willie is the man when it comes to the Mayor's races at Cheltenham. I think she's going to run against the Geldings again at Christmas by the sounds of it. Yeah, and I just think she's underrated after that Royal Bond. All the talk is of Mighty Potter and the horses in behind, but she's done her bit from the back. She's come through, and Willie was talking about how she's strengthened up a bit. 8-1 for the Mayor's Novices. That makes plenty of appeal to me, so I'm going to get her involved as well.
I'm going to go with my regular selection, my regular Ante-Post selection for the week, which is a 1-pointer. Yeah, we'll go with her. It's a she. Can you hear me? Bandwidth sort of dropped there. But I am going to get her into team. A 25-length winner on Chase debut. I look back at her run last year at the Cheltenham Festival. She was 22-1 starting for the Mayor's Novice Hurdle. She jumped like a chaser the whole way around, and she was free as anything. She likes to get on with it, as we heard Darrell keep saying midweek. And the horse, by the way, is Magic Days. And I'm putting her in for the Arkle at 20-1 as a regular selection. Henry's record in the Arkle, 2-mile chasers in general. This girl could be some sight now in an Arkle from the front. Another set of big lugs on her. Yeah, I thought she was mighty. I thought she was mighty impressive in Cork. But how she finished second last year in the Mayor's Novice Hurdle is beyond me. She was still there on the bridle coming to the last, and was picked up, was hunted down by Tell Me Something girl. I think this girl. She was crying out for a fence then. She's going to be. I think she goes this route. I think the Mayor's Chase, like, she's priced up for that as well, over 2.5. I think she wants to go from the front at 2 miles, and I think she's a cracking price at 20-1. I mean, you've all the flat Ferdy Hollow. I think this girl is value. And I'm getting her into team. Ferdy Arkle at 20-1. I think she's a love. I think she's very good and very exciting. And Ronan Groome, I'm going to put in a long range effort, which is worth a half a point, and we know it has to be 25-1 or more. So I'm going to give you double of that. I'm going to give you a 50-1 shot. Now we get 4 of these across the season. This horse has entered to run in the John Dirk. And Willie has said he's a Grade 1 winner over fences, 157 rated, with natural progression. What does that put him? Possibly into the mid 160s. Janadil for a Cheltenham Gold Cup.
Oh.
Janadil. He's a nice blend of experience. Plenty of runs over hurdles. A 7-year-old, I feel, is open to improvement. And were he to come out in the John Durkin, I mean, Allaho didn't exactly win the John Durkin last year. I don't know. He might not even run on Saturday, but I just like the look at this horse. Could surprise a few this season. Were he to rock up at Christmas in something like a Lexus or a Savills, as it's called now, I think he's in. Look, he's a huge price, and I'm going to put him in a 50-1 Janadil for the Cheltenham Gold Cup. Champ, of course, runs when he's down to run at Aintree for same connections. Chantry House, I like, but I think Champ will probably end up back over hurdles. I don't think he can jump fences, and I think this could be a dark horse for JP. Thoughts on that, Ronan Groome?
Yeah, I like it. You're going bold. You're going big and bold anyway. So never put anyone off. You can't really crab anyone for a 50-1 shot. So I love the Magic Days shout. That's a good call. I like that. The Mayor's records in the Arkle is quite good, and I like the way Henry's obviously done it with Decathlon as well. So yeah, I like a Henry de Bromley 2-mile chaser put that way, and she fits the bill. She's getting the £7 allowance. Interesting to see where she ends up next. So yeah, I like that shout.
Well, look at Janadil, by the way, just on him, you know, at the Punchestown Festival, over a minimum trip at 2 miles, ran a respectable race behind the Queen Mother winner, jumps well. We saw last year with that Plutard moving from the minimum trip up to 3 miles. This guy is still open to improvement as they go up and trip, and he's trained by Willie Mullins. He's a Grade 1 winner, and he's 50-1 for a Gold Cup.
Did he run well in the Albert Bartlett that time? He dramatically went up and tripped, didn't he? Willie was running them over 2 miles for the season and then went up to 3 miles for the Albert Bartlett. He ran quite well, I think. Didn't he finish 4th or something? So yeah, I can see where you're coming from.
He's always a horse I liked. He was probably pretty raw and unfurnished then. Yeah, I think he finished 4th behind the 4 that went to the line together. Was it your Fury Road latest exhibition, Tyne Hill, and was there another one? Maybe it was the 3. He finished 4th or 5th and ran well in an Albert Bartlett. So, 2 years on, already extended. I don't know. I just, as 50-1 shots go, I like this horse. But anyway, I suppose that concludes, doesn't it? Episode number 2 of the Road to Cheltenham Challenge. Maybe next week you'll give us a horse at double figures, will you? Considering it is November, like it must probably be December by then.
Don't you worry. Yeah, I'll have one. I'll have one with big prices for the big prices only for the rest of the challenge. So
I know. Put in who you like, Ronan. I'm not trying to bully you. Yeah, that's that. I suppose that look, just I suppose people. Big thank you to everyone who got involved last week. This is something that's going to build momentum. We saw with it last year. We launched the show. And it got a lot of traction. So you'll see in the comment section from last week's show the amount of templates that are posted in there. Put your selection in for week 1 if you haven't already. Obviously, continue to update your tracker as the season goes on, and there'll be plenty of interaction as well. Myself and Ron are going to be getting involved in the comments, letting you know our opinions on your selections. If you're putting your template in there, you are going to be judged. And you can judge ours as well, of course. But we'll see you next week for the Road to Challenge. And it'll be episode number 3, Ronan Groome. Looking forward to it already.
It's on the final 150 yards. This is a special year. And it's a Hattons for the break. and it's energumen opening up a clear advantage in the closing stages. A breath of fresh air over fences is going to stay at the helm of the 2 mile novices. Energumen by a romping 10-12